seems like everybody is late for class today, which I can expect. I can expect that on a new moon in Cancer, okay? And especially with this particular new moon in Cancer. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on class so that we are not running too far behind, and then I'll just let everybody come in and catch in as they may. All right, so today's purpose of this class, of course, is to go through the new moon energy that is in Cancer. We got a lot of stuff going on, especially with these retrogrades that's happening on top of it. We have a Saturn retrograde that's also going on at the same time. We have Neptune retrograde that's also in Pisces. So it's a lot of watery energy that's going on. If you live in the Caribbean or live in the islands, you know, we just got through going through Hurricane Beryl. All right, now it's getting ready to hit the States. So we just let that be a symbolism, okay? Anytime we're dealing with actual astrology information and energy, it's also translated to how we're dealing with the actual world. There's always things that are reflected in the actual world perspective that can allow you to see what's actually happening in life. What's going on, Brandy? All right, make sure. All right, so everybody is pretty late today to class, which I can expect. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get started, as I said before, and then we'll get into some of the other things. We'll just go through the process of how I want to kind of operate class today, like I said, which is just to go over the energy of this new moon within our chart, you know, so we're definitely going to talk about Cancer. I also want to talk about Capricorn as well, and how Capricorn being the polar opposite energy. Anytime we are out of balance in our Cancer placements, we are operating very heavily in our Capricorn placements. And what I mean is, anytime we're talking about Cancer, we're talking about nurturing, we're talking about family, we're talking about the programs of the womb. Okay, so Cancer is very much a symbolism of the feminine aspect or the female aspects of us, and the Capricorn aspects is the polar opposite to that, which can represent our masculine dynamic. So it can represent the father dynamic, the grandfather dynamic. It also can represent just the masculine energy inside of us. Okay, so when we start to think about how these things kind of play in our program, it's very important for us to not only look at our mother wounds, our mother programs, but also our father programs as well, okay? Because we have two sides to this energy, right? So we don't just have our grandmother and our mothers on our mother's side. We also have our mothers and our grandmothers on our father's side. So when we look at these dynamics and we look at the programs that we have, especially when it comes down to how we nurture ourselves, how we take care of ourselves, we have to look at the womb period. So when we think about the womb, we're talking about the gestational period. And when we're talking about you being in your mother's womb, right, you're not just carrying the DNA of your mother. Okay, now you're carrying the majority of the DNA of your mother, especially if you are a woman, right? But if you are a male, you tend to carry also most of genetics from our mothers, and then the father programs tend to come in when the fathers are around. You know what I'm saying? So I know you guys have heard like the purpose of the mother is to grow and nurture the child, and the process of the father is to uphold those boundaries, those standards. It's the daddy's job to do that, right? So if mama say something and child breaks that law, breaks that rule, daddy is supposed to come in to enforce that, right? And it's how these two dynamics work together. So when we talk about these programs, we're going to very much talk about those things today, and talk about like, if you are or tend to be a little bit out of balance in your nurturing, right? Not taking care of yourself, lacking self-care on one way or the other, then what you tend to do, you lean into your masculine dynamics more. So if you lack nurturing, then, you know, you might necessarily want to take care of the kids or deal with the kids, especially if you are a woman, right? And that can look like a multitude of things. It could look like overworking, you know what I'm saying? Not being present for certain things that the child needs, like the nurturing, the food, the nutrition, you know what I'm saying? The home care, you know, clothes, making sure that the children look great, feel great. All these things can be indications where you are lacking your own internal nurturing, and therefore you lack the same type of nurturing when it comes down to your children. So we're going to talk about those things. Now, one of the things I want to also talk about, I had made a post on Facebook last night, and I also transferred it to IG too in the post, but I kind of want to read it So that can also be some of the things that we recognize, because part of the ritual that we're going to do today is clearing, right? Now, I know you guys have probably heard, oh, the new moon is for you to plant seeds and, set intentions. And it is, but not without clearing first. And when I mean clearing first, you don't want to put clean food on a dirty plate. Okay, would you do that? Would you want to eat off a dirty plate? No, none of us want to do that. So when it comes down to us planting new seeds, we must first till to the ground. We must first make sure that the soil is nurtured and all those things. So one of the things that we're going to do when we get to our ritual part, which is the end of the class, is just do a lot of clearing. So I want this to be a safe space. As a matter of fact, when we get through the class part, I'm going to cut the video. And when I cut the video, we're going to get into our ritual part, because the ritual part is going to be about you being transparent and sharing whatever is coming up for you surrounding your mother wounds or surrounding your father wounds. Okay, so the programs that you may be feeling. So if that is some indication or some feelings that you may feel when it comes down to neglect or feeling neglected. Now, this is not to demonize or to blame anybody in your life, but it is to clear those things, because in order for you to start to have a better projection of what you want when it comes down to having that relationship, again, especially if you have children, especially if you have daughters, because we're going to talk heavy about how the emotions of the mother are carried through the daughter, through the child, whereas the illumination of the mother is carried through the son. And this is the reason why when it comes down to mothers having better relationships with their son, is because the son illuminates all those things, but the child carried the heavy emotions because we are the moons of our mothers, right? So when we come down to the ritual part of it, I want us to have a safe space for us to be able to just clear. So whatever energy is coming up, coming up for you as it relates to like your wounds, or, it may be some heavy energy or some tears. It's the Cancer season, so we're supposed to cry, okay? That's why I'm kind of calling it the crybaby class, okay? And if you got any other time to cry, we're going to use this class as your crybaby class. But in the ritual, I want you to just share, right? Or release whatever you feel like you need to release, so that you can bring it up and pull it out, so that after we go through the clearing phase of just getting everything out, then we're going to set intentions before you leave. And those intentions are just going to be incantations and words that you're going to repeat for the rest of the Cancer season, from now until we get to the full moon in Capricorn, so that you can birth a new reality. Okay. Now, one of the things about being women, and even if you're a man, you still have your feminine parts of you as well. But one part of us of holding this space is that we can reprogram ourselves. We can reparent ourselves. We don't have to stay stuck in the foundations of the energy that we feel like we've experienced from our childhood, especially with today's energy. We got all this Chiron stuff, like Moon is squaring Chiron and Venus is squaring Chiron too. So a lot of Chiron energy is showing up in our perspectives of using this new moon, right? And what is Chiron? The wounded healer. So we're going to use this class to be our safe space for the wounded healer energy. Call the energy up. And once we call the energy up, we're going to then implant words and incantations that you guys are going to say for the rest of the Cancer season into the full moon in Capricorn, to help birth a new reality, not only in your parental energy, what you've experienced with your parents, but also the parent that you are, whether you have children or not, okay? Because again, we're reparenting ourselves, okay? Now I want to just go and read this thing that I posted on Facebook today, just so you guys can kind of get into the spaces of seeing some of the stuff that we're going to talk about from the Capricorn perspective, right? So I said, on this new moon in Cancer, I want to speak to the polar opposite side, which is Capricorn, especially since we have another full moon in Capricorn coming, okay? Women with a lot of Capricorn placement. So I hope you guys brought your charts to class. You already know, if you've been here with me enough, you know having your chart is extremely important. Women with a lot of Capricorn placements have difficulties being around other women. They can sometimes get annoyed, or can also feel like they're causing issues or saying things to cause problems, because they simply rather be around men. You even hear them say often they prefer men in male relationships. Capricorn in our chart, especially when it is out of balance, can often show where we are too much in our masculine. Some symptoms are heavy periods. It could also be hysterectomies. It could be just womb issues altogether. Okay, so anything in our womb spaces, this can show up. Why? Because again, Capricorn is the polar opposite to Cancer. Cancer rules the womb and the breast. So this could also be breast cancer or tender in your breast or breast issues. All these things can come up to show you symptoms where you're out of balance in those perspectives. It could also be choosing to work versus not being at home. And the reason is because we sacrifice our self-care so much that we become hard. Okay. If this is you, and especially if you have daughters or granddaughters, or women that you work with, you should work on your womb energy, release toxic energy of mothers and grandmothers to heal the relationships with the little girl inside of you so that you can learn to have a great relationship with the women who you birthed through you and the women who you chose in this life to be a part of, okay? If this used to be you, I would also love to hear how you worked on this part of yourself and what you were did for self-care to help break this generational karmic cycle so that other women can listen and maybe use of some tools to assist them. Okay, so in the class, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about these symptoms and signs, right? That we are out of balance in our Cancer, Capricorn perspectives. And some of that is not necessarily wanting to nurture. Okay, so when we start to think about the nurturing aspects of us, and how we tend to nurture ourselves. So when I hear people say, well, I haven't been good on my self-care, or I don't necessarily give myself the care that I need, when you start to think about that, you have to think about where that came from. Okay. You didn't just all of a sudden decide that you was going to lack in taking care of yourself. Self-care practices are taught. More than they're taught, they are passed down. So meaning we see these things in our childhood when it comes down to how our mothers take care of themselves, right? So if your mom didn't necessarily was good at taking care of herself, or maybe she had a struggle with doing that because she was overly doing everything for everybody else, you know what I'm saying? Then we can see where this energy is coming from inside of you, right? You automatically saw this as being something that, was how you need to be a woman. And so you take that on, right? Our mothers are the first women we fall in love with. They're the women who are our models, just like our fathers are the first men we fall in love with. So when it comes down to us choosing partners, choosing friends, choosing our group of community of women, these things very much come from our mothers and our fathers, okay? So when we think about this perspective of the polar opposite energy of Capricorn, and we think about how Capricorn is the money and the financial system to Cancer, it is what allows the Cancer placements in us to be more feminine, to be more nurturing, right? Because Capricorn represents, again, the fathering dynamic. It represents the masculine dynamic, and it comes in to make sure that everything is paid for. But if you happen to be someone who has a lot of Capricorn placements, or wherever you have Capricorn in your chart, if you did not have a masculine structure that was there to provide those things, then you automatically took those things on. So meaning you didn't have the opportunity to get into a feminine perspective because you had to work. Okay. So even if you had kids and you wanted to be at home with your kids, you couldn't because there's no money at the house to take care of things. So now you're trying to balance being a man and being a woman. And sometimes when you start to see that money flow in and you start to see that you're getting your household balance, you start to lean more on that because you like, I need this structure or I need this foundation. And the truth is, as women, we do need that foundation. We do need those energies to grow and not only nurture our children, but to nurture yourself. Again, if you don't have no children, there's a little girl inside of you that need this too. So if there is no masculine dynamic outside of you providing these things for you, then the masculine energy inside of you takes these things on. And when they do, when that masculine energy takes on these particular perspectives, it starts to process away from the feminine. It processes away from the womb. And what does that look like? Heavy periods, okay? Like I said, even the things of having fibroids, okay? Or having a lot of headaches and just not being able to just rest and relax, okay? It's a heavy thing. So one of the things that I want you guys to process as we get through this class is how to get back in balance. The way to get back in balance is to understand. I understand us single mamas, so trust me, single mama here, okay? So if you're a single mom, I get it, right? But we cannot continue to narrate this cycle as it relates to us not giving the energy that we need to give as it relates to nurturing of ourselves. We can no longer blame and walk through life and say, oh, well, my mama didn't do this or my daddy didn't do this. Not to negate what our parents did, but you also have to understand that your parents were also children. So if they were not able to show up in the ways in which they needed to show up, they also learned it from your grandparents. That's the reason why a lot of this energy that we're doing with this new moon is not only just clearing the energy from your mom and your dad, it's clearing the energy from your maternal and paternal side as it relates to your grandparents. Okay, a lot of them went through Jim Crow and went through a lot of slavery issues and all kind of things that they went through. And because of that, self-care was last on the totem pole. We are the first of the generations that have the opportunity to really put ourselves in self-care. But even though we are the first generation to really do that, the psychosis of us tell us that we can. Okay, because we never saw it. And when you don't see something, it's sometimes hard for you to produce it. Okay, so you have to understand that we're having to push through something and create something that we've never seen. You feel it. You feel that you're not taking care of yourself well. You feel that you're not really nurturing and giving yourself that energy. But if there is no model, especially in your bloodline and your family, because there are models in the internet world, but then we find out some of the models, they be just for show, right? They show us all this stuff, and then behind closed doors, they fucking falling apart. So when it comes down to real life, there are no models when it comes down to how we should nurture. So you are having to create what nurturing looks like for you. And let me tell you how you can find that out without you having to do any heavy work. When you close your eyes and you ask yourself, what can I do to nurture myself? The answers always show up, okay? And what they tend to show up as things that make you have fun, okay? So meaning like when you say, oh, what can I do to nurture myself? Sometimes for me, it pops up like, go dance real quick, okay? Go turn some music on and dance. The reason why that is a level of self-care for me is because it's not something that immediately costs me money. All it costs me for me to close the world out, put music on, and allow my body to shed. Okay, shed in what way? When we dance, we move our feet. Okay, feet. Our feet is ruled by Pisces. Okay, Pisces or our feet is the exit point to the energy. So meaning you take stuff in here. Your head processes and it moves down your body. And when your body processes and go through all your organs and all your stages, the last point of entry exit is your feet. So when my body says go dance, I know what it's trying to do is literally trying to get that stale energy out of my body. Now yours can be take a nap. Why take a nap? Because sleep is also ruled by Pisces, and Pisces is also an exit point. Okay, so a lot of the nurturing that you're going to hear loudly is going to be in your water placements. Why? Because the water energy is where we tend to release. Okay, why do you think we cry? What is crying? Release. Okay, sometimes when people are like, oh, I just feel like I just need a good cry. What you're literally saying is, I need some self-care, or I need to go sit in the tub. Self-care, okay? I need better boundaries. Self-care, okay? I need to say no. Self-care. All these things don't cost no money. Everything I just said don't cost nothing, okay? Naps, dancing, getting in the tub, better boundaries. All of these are self-care practices that your mother and your grandmother were not great at, okay? Your grandmama wasn't great at saying no. Your mama wasn't great at saying no. She said yes to everything because she felt like the family needed her. Okay, so when are you going to say no? You have to say no. And you have to also, in your saying no, understand that they're still going to get what they need. I promise you they're going to get what they need. The reason being is because we are not in this world alone. So because we are not in this world alone, me too, Brenda, I love a good nap, girl. Listen, when I take a nap and then I seem to dream a lot louder when I do take my naps than when I just have a full night's rest. Like I dream anyway, but I noticed that when I take naps, my dreams are way more vivid and they're way more like electric in that 30 minutes or 40 minutes, right? Or sometimes a 10-minute nap, okay, can energize and can power you up. So understand that when we talk about self-care, I think when people start to think about self-care, they think about vacations. And they think about, things that cost a lot of money, which when you think about that and that the money is not there, then you start to get depressed because you're like, I need a massage, but I don't have the money for a massage. So then you start to get depressed and sad. Or, oh, I want to go take a vacation, but I don't have the money for the vacation. Then you get depressed and sad. I want to take myself out. I want to go out to eat. You avoid things that are going to trap you from taking care of yourself because money needs to be involved. Self-care does not involve money. What self-care involves is taking time, okay? Which is, again, I said earlier, because we have these retrogrades going on, Saturn retrograde right now in Pisces, Neptune retrograde in Pisces, okay? You have to understand that the discipline of your time management and just giving yourself time is what's going to help you to break out of these things. It's going to help you to really free yourself up. It's not money. It's time. Is you saying yes to you and your time. That's what's going to help you to reprogram yourself. So another part of the thing that I want you guys to implant for this new moon energy, right? From now until the full moon in Capricorn, is putting in your schedule for the week. How much time are you going to give yourself to self-care? You can decide what that is. Okay. Me and Brandon say we like naps. So we can say, okay, from now until the full moon, I'm going to take more naps for self-care. You know what I'm saying? Or that could be like, I'm going to dance more for self-care. Whatever that free energy time is, I want you to put that in. Okay. Why? Because you are not just doing this for you. Understand that when you make a shift and a change, you're changing 7 generations in your past and 7 generations in your future. You are doing this because you are the first in your generation, in your family bloodline, to have the opportunity to do this. Before you, it did not exist. And if you do not do it, we can hope and pray that there is going to be an existence of this after you, but I don't want to take that chance. Okay. I want to take the chance that if I do it, if I take the time and energy to do it for me, that my daughter's going to automatically do it for herself. And if she decides to have children, even though she says she does not want to have kids, me and her went back and forth on this thing about me and my grandbabies. And I finally had to throw my hands up. I had to be like, you know what? It's wrong for me to put the pressure on you to have grandbabies because and this is going to be part of my being transparent with y'all, right? The reason why I put the pressure on her is because I recognized I didn't have more children, and I really did. I really wanted more kids. But the reason why I chose not to have those children and I chose to, have those abortions and do all the things that I decided to do was because I didn't feel financially stable. I didn't feel like I could nurture and take care of these kids emotionally and mentally because I was already struggling to take care of her. So how can I bring more kids in the world that I'm gonna, make suffer and all these things, all the stuff I put in my head, okay? And the truth of the matter was that was a lie. Because babies come with the things that they need, okay? They come with all the support and love that they need. The reason why is because there's already a karmic bank attached to us as souls, right? But when you are or have been living in fear, or you have been in a society that teaches you that everything is so monetarily based, it's easy for you to dismiss yourself and your wants, needs, and desires, and dismiss your children who come here to help. I think even today, I was going through something emotionally, and I was talking to my daughter, and she, on the end of our conversation, she says, well, let me know, Mama, if you need more space to vent. And I think about that. I'm like, wow, look at what I've created for myself. Look at what I've birthed. I birthed a version of me that if I need to vent, and she said it to me, if you need space and opportunity to vent, Mama, let me know. So I think about the children that I chose to not have, right? And I'm one of those people, even though I chose not to have those children because I'm also a doula as well. And being on the spectrum of being not only a birth doula, but also being a death doula as well, I don't believe that you can kill spirits. Okay. I believe the spirits show up for you. And then if you decide not to give birth to them, they don't die. They're still with you. Okay. They're always riding down with you, however that energy is. So, but I think about, had I gave the space and opportunity for more children to come through, and what these kids would have been for me, what type of space and opportunity they could have provided for me. You know what I'm saying? So when I put that pressure on her, and I told her this yesterday, I said, I apologize to you for putting that pressure on you. And when I realized that my putting the pressure on you to have grandkids was because I wanted a second chance. There were children that I wanted to have that I didn't have. And I'm thinking to myself, if you have these babies, then I get this second chance. And that's not fair because this is her life. So whatever she wants to do and however she wants to do it, I support that fully. But me trying to put the pressure on her to do something that I didn't do, that's wrong. So that's one of the things that we have to also come to grips with in our life, that, again, children, right? Whether you choose to have them or not, it don't matter. But they come fully financed. Okay, you just have to be aware of it, because a lot of us have kids who have superpowers and super gifts, but we're scared of our children's superpower and we push them down. Well, that's you. If you want to wash your millions out, baby, that's that's on you. Okay, but children come fully financed. They don't need us to struggle, and we don't have to struggle. If you project that into your life and into your children's life, that's what it will be. So that's what I did. So I projected that. Every pregnancy that I had after her, I felt like I just was not ready. I could not mentally take care of it. I was still trying to figure out what life was trying to be like, whether I was going to be this microbiologist or whether I was going to be this therapist. You know what I'm saying? What was my womb creating? And at the time, mental health wise, I was still going through a lot of things, and I felt I wasn't a safe foundation to produce more children. Okay. That's part of the womb healing. Okay. So for those of you that are watching this back, if you've, had the opportunity to be with child and something happened to where you chose not to have those children, do not, if you can give yourself some type of grace, space, and empathy, to understand that that may have been a period in time when you just did not know any better. You did not understand that you were going to have everything that you need. Give yourself the grace and release that. You know what I'm saying? And if you've been in class with me this year, I've been telling y'all that this age thing about when we can have babies and how old, that shit is out the window. So I don't care how old you are, you can have a baby. Okay. All you have to do is call them babies in, and I guarantee you can have a baby. Now, when I, draw this next relationship in, if he happens to say, oh, baby, I want some babies, then we've been have some babies. I don't care what stage I'm at. Okay. I'm 45 now. So if this happens, then your girlfriend to be a 50-year-old with some babies, with some brand new children on the hip. Okay. Walking around, be looking young as I can. Okay. Because that age thing and the biological clock thing, that shit is not real. Okay. You go, wait, what you say, Brandon? You said you go call that baby. Do you hear me? I check, got it done. Okay, we both gonna be getting that thing done, because that is just a fallacy. You know what I'm saying? And part of the work too that I'm moving into, you know what I'm saying, I'm thinking about going back to school and get my PhD in psychedelic assisted therapies, because one of the things that I want to add to my doula practice is psychedelic births, right? So allowing us to really get into this thing of births do not have to be painful. I think that's also a lie. That's also something that we've been told, right? And I think we prepare for pain is because we prepare for pain, we have it, right? But your pain centers and your pleasure centers are on the same line. They're right there. So if your pain and pleasure are on the same line, we're gonna have to get to this thing a little bit deeper, right? So for me, the part of my doula work I want to do is allow women to start to use psychedelic medicines so that they can start to get into the pleasure of childbirth, right? And me being one of those people, again, if he comes in, you hear me, Brandon, you hear me, Bridget, he comes in and say, you know what, baby, I want to have some babies. Let's go, nigga. Let's do it. Okay. And we're going to psychedelic have these babies. Okay. I'm going to make that happen. Right. And the thing is too, I see Holly Berry is pregnant right now. Of course, Ashanti is pregnant right now. And who was the other one? Janet Jackson, pregnant right now. All of these women, late 40s, early 50s, okay, having babies. So there's no time frame on this thing about babies. We are not dying at 70, okay? I know I've been watching women who are 140 some years old. So this age thing is also a lie, right? It's what we want it to be. So we don't have to feel like we got to rush to have children or have babies in your 20s and your 30s because you're going to die in your 70s. No, all these things are changing. So because I know I'm going to live forever in some days, okay, then I'm not also on this time crunch, okay? I've given birth to my child. She's in college and on the way to her life, but I can also have new babies. I can have brand new children and we can do this thing, right? So that energy of me putting that weight on her, saying all of to say, I had to relieve that womb issue, okay? Part of me healing my womb was releasing that energy and putting the pressure on my child to do the things that I did not do because I felt like I had lost out on my chances, but that's not the truth, right? So I can relieve her of that energy and that pressure and also relieve that from myself, you know what I'm saying? And call this energy back into myself if this is something that I truly desire to do, okay? So for everybody that's watching this, please free your womb up. If you want more babies, Your babies are going to take care of themselves, okay? And stop telling yourself too, I don't care what your birthing process was before, whether or not you got pregnant and the man left you and then you raising babies, your single mama thing, like that stuff be haunting us. Like, I don't want to raise babies by myself. Well, if you don't want to raise babies by yourself, why are you saying it? Right? We don't have to raise children by ourselves. When you have a community, the world will help you to take care of your kids, but you also have to let them go. You have to stop saying to yourself that, I don't trust nobody and these things are going to happen to my kids. We have to watch our words and our language and let the world help us to raise our children. You know what I'm saying? So I already know for me, I love the work that I do. I love helping people. I love traveling, doing all these things. So I know there's a community to help me to raise my children. My children, future children, are not just going to be raised by me. They're going to be raised by other women and other men, not just me and their daddy, but other daddies and other mamas. Okay. So when I say, hey, I got to be gone for 2 weeks to do something, they're going to be other women and men coming and be like, oh, we got you, girl. Like, go on, do what you got to do. This baby going to be good. And I know I can trust this community to help me to raise that. We got to start living in different perspectives. This is what I mean when I say reprogramming. This is what I mean when I say clearing of our wombs. A lot of this stuff, these fears and things we have around people helping us to take care of our children and take care of our family is because we come from, okay, cycles and energy. What these things were true. Okay, we do have molestation energy in our family. We do have rape energy in our family, right? We do have these broken cycles of, community and family energy in our family dynamics. But your job is to remove that. We can remove that just by what we put in our wombs, right? If we know that having sex creates some type of energy, and if we're not in a space that we're ready to produce a child, then what are we producing with our orgasms? What are we creating with our energy, our sex energy? What we should be creating with our sex energy, we should be creating new foundations, okay? So no longer do you have to worry that your children are going to be violated when you leave them with people. Okay, you don't have to worry about you being violated when you put yourself in a community of people. These things change because we change them. Okay, so this is what we're here to do. If I haven't made myself clear in this 30 minutes that I've been talking, this is what we're here to do. We're here to clear our womb space, clear our ideologies, clear whatever has been implanted and programmed into your fourth house energy. We're here to clear that out. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk a little about Cancer. Talk about fourth house. Let's talk about what's in your fourth house dynamic, okay? And talk about what your current programs are and how to start to clear that energy, okay? So I'm going to pull up time passages. Y'all know that's my favorite. That's my friend. All right, let me go to my home page. Find it and go to time passages. All right. All right, where y'all at? Pull y'all back up. Okay, let's share my screen. All right, so if you ever want to know how to get to the study perspectives of your time passages, okay? What you're gonna do is, and this is on my computer, so you can also put time passages, download time passages on your computers. Doesn't just have to be on your phone. Doesn't matter whether or not you have an Apple device or you have a Droid device. It doesn't matter, okay? You're gonna go down to the Learn section of your app. When you go down to the Learn section, then you go to signs, okay? Signs that we're dealing with today, Cancer and Capricorn. So we're gonna go to Cancer first, okay? So when we deal with Cancer, let's go to womb. Let me go to window, view full screen. All right, so we look at the Cancer perspective, right? Cancer symbolism is a crab because even though it's out, it likes to be inside of its shell. So when we think about the Cancer energy, we think about both of those perspectives, being out and also being inside. Usually it's out when it's ready to like explore and feel, it's walking like this, hands out, touch, 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 touch. And then when it starts to deal with a lot of wounds or stuff that's going on, it goes in the inside, okay? Or deal with the wound perspectives, okay? The ruling energy of Cancer is the moon, okay? So meaning when you think about your menstrual cycle, okay? We're getting deep here. When you think about your menstrual cycle, We're now talking about the Cancer dynamic, okay? Your womb energy, okay? Your menstrual menses is all Cancer based, okay? Why? Because the moon rules your menstrual cycle, okay? That 28 days energy in dealing with the menstrual cycle is all the moon vibration, okay? What house is Cancer ruled? The fourth house, okay, which is also represent of the actual house itself, okay? When you think about a house, we live inside of four walls, that energy, all of that is Cancer dynamic, okay? And when we think about the house or the home, we're also thinking about the family dynamic. We're thinking about the programs of the family, okay? So programs start in the womb space or in the moon, right? Menses, 28 days. That energy then segue, okay, into everything that we're going to then program and implant into our family dynamic, okay? It is the water element. It is the baby of the water element. It is the cry baby, okay? That's what I call it, the cry, now all of the water signs can cry. Scorpio, you're gonna have to do something to that Scorpio and make that Scorpio cry. And when you do, you better shoot for the hills. Because with that Scorpio is crying, baby, it's gonna be some problems behind it. Okay. But if the Cancer is crying, that's okay. Okay. Because the Cancer will cry and then laugh right behind it. Okay. If the Pisces is crying, it's also good because it's a releasing of those things. Okay. So the water element, it is also part of the cardinal four, okay? So the cardinal four are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. Those are the four cardinal energies. What is cardinal responsible for? Initiating, starting things, leadership, pushing things off, okay? So when you think about cardinal energy, that's his job. It's going to always be great at that. And because the Capricorn dynamic is the oldest of the cardinal energy, it is the head business person, the bank, okay? It is the money, all right? Now, Aries is the initiator of the cardinal energy, meaning that it is the leader, it's the baby. It's going to push things off. So it's responsible for that. Where Cancer and Libra comes in, Cancer energy comes in to, again, be almost like the manager of all the business, okay? Again, Capricorn is the bank, is the business. Cancer energy is the manager of that business. So it can have multiple different types of businesses that it's doing because it's all feeling. It's all based on feeling. But when it comes down to what type of businesses that the Cancer energy is doing, things that have to do with the womb. Okay, so the person has a lot of Cancer vibration in their chart should be doing doula work. They should be helping birth babies. Okay, they should be doing massage therapy or things that help you to get things out of your body, the feeling energy out of your body. Okay, now when we talk about the Libra perspective of it, Libra is the relationship dynamic of the cardinal energy. So its job is to initiate relationships and make sure that we are staying in relationships and staying in balance of those things. Okay, what's the key word to Cancer? Feeling. The term of agreement for the Cancer dynamic starts on June 21st and it goes to July 21st, sometimes 22nd, depending on how the timestamp is, and sometimes depending on whether or not we are in a leap year. Okay, so that can kind of fluctuate. But the main cycle in your head to think about, June 21st to July 21st. Okay, one of the things I thought was really interesting about that too is when you take that June and July energy of it, you take that 21 and 12 around, you can kind of push those things around. It's just all 6-9. Okay, it's all intense feeling energy and all stuff that's dealing with how we are feeling. Okay, now the words Cancerians are nurturing and protective of others. Their ruling planet is the moon, and they tend to be moody with constant changing emotions. Well, the moon changes every 2.5 days. So it's supposed to be moody and constant changing emotions, right? If it's going through its change every 2.5 days. So out of all of the planets and all the ruling energies, the moon is the one that we should pay attention to the most, especially if you are a woman. Okay, now man too, I'm not dismissing you because y'all have moon cycles too. You just don't bleed. Okay, so you should also be taking account of how your moon cycles are. Okay, so for 28 days, you guys should be starting moon journals. Okay, so meaning that whatever day you start is fine. Okay, you can say I'm gonna start on the 1st. I don't care. But whatever you do start, you should write down the moon phase, the degrees of the moon, and you should write how you're feeling. Okay. And you should do this every day for 28 days. Okay. When you start to see for 28 days how your energy is with these cycles, you're going to start to see a pattern. The pattern is Every July for 28 days, you're going to feel this way. Every August for 28 days, you're going to feel this way. So then you can start to write down what moon cycles you need to be alone, what moon cycles you need to spend more time with yourself, and what moon cycles you need to nurture yourself, okay? Because it doesn't matter what month we're dealing with writing down or journaling our moon energy. The thing that matters is the fact that you are putting in the self-care and the programming to that, okay? Cancerians also like to be security conscious or highly valued to their home life. Why? Well, it rules the home. It rules the house, so it's supposed to be, okay? Sometimes they may appear as being passive, which I feel like that comes on the Capricorn side of it, and they tend to rely on their feelings to make decisions. Yes, so that means where you have Cancer in your chart, you should also be keen to your feelings and not let somebody tell you that your feelings are not valid, okay? Your feelings are valid because it's based on your feelings and your Cancer placements, right? The reason why this energy is so important is because if it is something that is triggering your feelings, it's something that needs to be reprogrammed or worked on, okay? They're rather subtle rather than direct and are likely to reflect the moods of those around them. Yeah, it's water. What is water going to do? Adapt and take those things in, okay? Let's see if I'm going to put anything else in here. Let's see. The water element is the feminine or yin energy of emotions. If you guys don't know, I'm doing class of yin. We're meeting for 4 weeks. Okay. We met last Monday. We're going to meet again this Monday. And the purpose of class of yin is to learn how to work with the feminine water, to work with the energy of the program. So now in this class, we're doing a quick version of what I'm doing for class of yin for 4 weeks. Okay. Which is to look at the programs, dive into the programs, and then work the yin energy, because this is what yin energy is. It's feminine, okay? The feminine or yin energy of emotion, okay? It corresponds to the Yugon typology of feeling, okay? Receptive and sensitive to subtle currents of interconnection. That is extremely important to understand. The purpose of Cancer vibration or your womb energy is for you to get very extremely intuitive, okay? Intuitive energy is how we birth, is how we also connect to everything that we want. So we talk about manifestation, we're talking about intuition, okay? Your ability to manifest comes from your ability to intuit what it is that you're feeling, and then programming or pulling some energy into that, using the yin energy to pull more to yourself, okay? Yin is receptive, okay? Think about the vagina as a whole, right? Things go in there. So that means we're pulling things in. It's a receptive dynamic that's going on, all right? Receptive and sensitive to subtle currents of interconnection, currents, water, ocean, okay? All that has to do with the yin energy. It flows through everything and connects at a deeper and more unconscious level than that provided by logical thought. Water people are tuned into a deeper and subtle reality than other types around them. So the more water you have, and especially in places like, if you are a water moon sign, that's important, okay? It's extremely important. Not that the other ones are not, but the moon rules Cancer, right? So if you are a moon water energy, whether it's Pisces, Cancer, or Scorpio, you are extremely intense. You have to watch and manage that energy, all right? Now, let's get into your 4th house dynamic, right? What do you have in the 4th house? Escape out of this. All right. Put it in the chat for me really quick. I want twins, boy and a girl. Girl, listen. And you know, Brandon, I feel like one of my release, I'm gonna call them release ceremonies of my babies, were definitely twins. You know what I'm saying? And I think they were twin boys. But the man who I was with at the time, I was with an Aquarius at the time, and he was driving me crazy, girl. I was crazy left and right. He was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be here for you to have these. You was here to help me to book them, but now all of a sudden you're not gonna be here to help me. All right, I got you. I know what to do about this. Okay. All right. Let's see. Bridget said you got Leo in the 4th. Okay. Brandon, what you got in the 4th?
I'm looking it up now.
Okay. So Bridget, we'll go with you first. So 4th house dynamic Leo. Okay. So we think about the programs of the 4th house Leo energy. Okay. Now Leo has a lot to do with the heart chakra. Okay. Now, does it have a lot to do with the heart chakra? It has a lot to do with the inner child. Okay. Or the child perspective. Okay. The programming of the children is the reason why our kids start going to school in August, which is the Leo season, because Leo is literally the house where we go to then teach our children. So when it comes down to your fourth house dynamic, this speaks to energy, first of all, dealing with broken heart energy, right? So having that fourth house energy means that there may have been some broken heart energy, especially when it comes down to your mom. So she could have been extremely protective, or there may have been a lack of courage or working on courage or her activating courage, right? So in that house, it was more so about education. Your education may have been more of a thing that probably was like more important than nurturing. Okay. What type of education you got, what school you went to, you know what I'm saying, making sure that you had those things into proper perspective, because maybe to your family dynamic and to your mom, it was better that you had higher education, and that was the way she was going to ensure that you was going to be taken care of. Okay. You got me in my own point. Does it feel like I'm in the thing? Yes, 100%. You see what I'm saying? And this is how we start to, again, we don't have to guesswork, right? What happened? Your birth chart is also your mama's chart, okay? The day in which your mama gave birth to you, your chart is where she was on that day. So we already know what she was dealing with when she gave birth to you and what was going on in her life, okay? Same thing for the dad. The dad stuff is there too. We can always find those things by looking at what was in the 10th house dynamic, and we can see those things, which we're going to talk about in a minute. All right, Brandy, Cancer in the fourth. So Cancer in the fourth house is being at home, right? So we have Cancer in the fourth house. This then speaks to lack of nurturing. Okay, that means mom didn't necessarily have, you know, nurturing was maybe not necessarily in place. Maybe her feelings may not have been valid, or was not seen as being valid. There could have been a lot of emotional things going on. So maybe she was struggling with how to program, right? Womb issues. So there could have been things going on there, hysterectomies, or think heavy cycles, stuff dealing with all in the womb space, or it could also be breast too. So it also could have been like breast issues of things that could have been going on. But anytime we have fourth house Cancer dynamic, it is strictly about how are we going to program our children? What do we need to put in place? And whether or not our nurturing of ourselves or lack of nurturing of ourselves is what's also giving off on that. So a lot of energy could also mean that maybe mama wasn't necessarily there all the way, right? Grandmama could have been in place too, or there could have been other people who was there to give rise to raising you, because the off balance energy in the fourth house Cancer dynamic can also show us where the lack of self-care just wasn't there. So it could have caused some issues with mama not necessarily knowing how to be there, okay? In a lot of different ways, right? Am I? Exactly. Okay. So when we think
on point.
So when we think about these things, now we think about what do we need to do to change it, right? So if we know that there's a lack of nurturing there, and we know that there's something that caused that, so then for you, Brandon, we know that nurturing is the number one thing you have to give to yourself, right? Self-care is extremely important. So doing things, even though you want to go over and above for your children, right? Because that not necessarily having that thing means I need to reprogram my legacy a different way. So reprogramming your legacy a different way initially can come off giving your children everything. Okay, that could be the first thing that you put in place, right? But that is also part of the problem. Part of the problem in the bloodline has been, okay, well, I didn't have this, so let me give my children what I didn't have. Versus your kids don't want that. I can guarantee you, half the stuff we think our kids want, they don't want it. That's you wanted it. And because that's you wanted it, that's how it goes back into the cycle of reparenting yourself. So you are the first child you have to take care of, especially when you have Cancer fourth house. It's about you nurturing and giving yourself all the things that you felt that could have been missing in that dynamic. Okay. Bridget, for you is also the same, is recognizing that because education was the thing that was pushed so hard for you, okay? It's understanding that because education was first, there was also not enough inner child healing going on. So meaning for you, whereas Brandy have to focus on self-care, you have to focus on self-care too, but you have to focus on self-care as it relates to having fun with your inner child. So doing fun things, okay? I mean, literally like pigtails, colorful clothes, skating, dancing, hula hooping, you know what I'm saying? Bouncing balls, all the things that relates to a child having fun, right? Because in a sense, you wasn't necessarily allowed to do that because education was pushed so hard. So when it comes down to the reprogramming part, you have to say, well, how can I nurture myself? What can I give to myself? And that energy is making sure that you go in and change the identity of what was most important when it came down to your childhood. What did your mom think was most important? What did your dad think was most important? And or grandmama think was most important? Your uncles think was most important, right? Because your uncles and your aunties are also part of that cycle. Your aunties and your uncles also come from your mamas and your daddy's same vibration. So you can, if you think you can't see it in your mama and your dad, look at your aunties and your uncles. They got the same thing, okay? Maybe just a little bit different in because they may have been older or younger, but it's still the same. The programs are the same. So you want to look at those things and then start to dissect how can you then put in the things that was missing. Same for you, Brandy. What was the language of your mom? What was the language of your dad? What was the language of your uncles, aunties, grandma, granddad, the people that when you think about your family and the people that you had the opportunity to be raised with, or have the opportunity to see in your lifetime, what was the programs? What did you see? Right? This is important so that you can see what was missing. Okay. Now, when I think about my fourth house, in my fourth house, I have Scorpio there. Okay. So, what that means for me is that I necessarily grew up with, my mom being a little bit abrasive in a couple different things. Right. So, because maybe she was working on her boundaries may not have been as strong. So, sometimes in our relationship, those boundaries could have been an issue for us. So, not only do I have fourth house Capricorn, fourth house Scorpio, my mother is a Capricorn, so that means we have a square going on. So our relationship has had turbulent times. And anybody that has a fourth house Scorpio, you have turbulent times with your mother, you know what I'm saying? And turbulent time with your father too. It ain't just one parent, it's both parents. And when you have those turbulent times, it's because one of the things that you're learning is, number one, you're learning boundaries, but you're also learning how to go at things alone. Because having a Scorpio, no matter where it is in your chart, you are a true cycle breaker. You are transforming a lot of things. So a lot of things I'm having to transform and transmute because these were not things that my parents were allowed to do in their bloodline. They carried a lot of trauma from their parents and from their families. And because out of both sides of their families, I feel like when I think about my parents and I think about the families that they come from, like both sides existed some alcoholism. On my dad's side, it was way more alcoholism, way more drugs and that kind of stuff. On my mom's side, not so much drugs per se, but really alcoholism, right? And so because they come from foundations of that, I felt like out of the children, I feel like they were the best two, if that makes sense, out of the children. So meaning that all the stuff that went on in the family, they swore not to do those things. So it's like they put up these walls to not be the alcoholics and not be these things, but they never really dealt with the cycles of it. I never dealt with the discontentment that went along with coming from families that had a lot of substance abuses. You know what I'm saying? So that let them not necessarily being as nurturing as they could be. Now I feel like my mama gave as much as she could nurturing wise, but it still was a difficult thing for her to do, especially with the woman perspective, because she wasn't really allowed to get that nurturing from her mom. You know what I'm saying? Some of the things I also remember, like in the energy of, especially on my mom's side, I remember my grandmother my grandmother was, when she got into her last stages, the girls took care of my grandmother, right? So my auntie, who was a Leo, was living in the house with her, taking care of her. My mom was always checking on her, doing certain things. So the girls really took care of my grandmama on her last days. But because of my grandmother's own, and my grandmother was a Gemini, so she was two ways. Sometimes she would show up and she would be just fine. Sometimes she would show up and she just wasn't. She was just a totally different person. But in her latter days, the girls took care of her. But then when my grandmother transitioned, she didn't, her will and stuff that she had going on, when we wound up finding her will, she left nothing to the girls. Pretty much everything she had, she gave to the boys. You know what I'm saying? And this is what I mean too about the mothering issues. When the grandmother does not necessarily heal the things that they're supposed to heal, it kind of cascades down, because even though the girls took care of my grandmother, she still felt hard and she felt like she couldn't necessarily embrace that feminine part of her because she lacked self-care. And because she lacked self-care, I felt like she didn't really embrace her daughters enough, to the point to where even when I think about my other like I had two aunts that transitioned, right? And the aunts that transitioned, one of them had left and moved to Texas and like stopped talking to us, and her self-care became really terrible, and then she wound up transitioning. Then my other aunt, really suffered from alcoholism really bad, you know what I'm saying, and a lot of anger issues, and she transitioned too, and I have another aunt now that's dealing with some things in her kidney. So the girls are really dealing with some things, and they're really dealing with some things because, again, the lack of self-care that my grandmother just wasn't really able to tap into for herself, to the point, again, where she gave more energy to the boys. She left her house and everything that she had to one of my uncles that wasn't even living in the state. He didn't even want it to do anything with it. You know what I'm saying? My other uncle was the one who was taking care of my baby uncle. So just it was a lot of stuff that was going on, that my grandmother just almost felt like she just disconnected from her girls and put a lot of weight on and gave all the energy to the boys, even though the girls was there helping her through those process. So when I think about the Scorpio dynamic of me and my mother in the fourth house, I understand. And even though that don't mean that it don't hurt me sometimes when I'm going through it, you know what I'm saying? When we going through our transitional spaces, like I tell people, me and my mother are in a better situation today than where we were years ago. That don't mean that we are not still going through things. We still going through things. You know what I'm saying? I have resentment on your behalf. Please, this is a part of the family dynamic. This is what we have to do. You know what I'm saying? This is a contract that I signed, right? And because it's a contract that I signed, I'm okay with working through it. What I'm not okay with is me turning into my grandmother. I am not gonna do that. Okay. I'm not willing to be in that space, right? I'm not willing to even allow my mother to be my grandmother either. You know what I'm saying? So I'm willing to be that child that's gonna work through her, even though we may have blow-ups or blowouts, right? At the core of me, I have to keep communicating. I have to keep figuring out a way to get through it. Because if I don't want that to be her reality, to where when she transitioned, then she's mad at me and not, seeing me as somebody who's just here to love her and take care of her. And then she dump all the energy on my brother, right? So these cycles will keep repeating if we allow them to. But if you've made it in your mind that you don't want to do that, then it's not going to happen. Okay. So fourth house dynamic, what you have is how you break that cycle. So for me, I have to really transmute and transform a lot of the dark energy as it relates to that part of my bloodline. Okay. Scorpio in the fourth. So whatever you have in the fourth house is what you have to see as the program and what you have to nurture yourself. So what my mom don't have and wasn't able to give to me, I'm no longer blaming her for that. I have to keep working on my childhood triggers. Okay. So when those things come up in me and I'm like, oh, this makes me feel away, right? I have to go and sit with that and be like, okay, did you know where this is coming from? So what are you going to do about it? And the answer always comes up, you got to nurture yourself. You got to do the things that she wasn't able to do for herself, and that you still sometimes see her not able to do for herself. Nurture. So I have to get heavy on the nurtured and heavy on the self-care as it relates to those things. Okay. So that's what I want you guys to process. So part of the homework is studying your fourth house and recognizing that studying the fourth house, Bridget, you have some heart work to heal. So listen to some 432 megahertz to activate courage, to allow yourself to tap into that inner child healing and have fun. You can do this, okay? Brandy, same thing. Tapping into that fourth house Cancer dynamic, self-care, aggressive self-care, doing the tub, doing all the things, nurturing your womb. One of the things too that I want you to do, Brandon, like I got Bridget listening to 432 megahertz, right? For you, because Cancer's in the fourth house, massaging your womb, right? So when you get into bed at night, before you go to sleep, massage your womb area. You know what I'm saying? Like really get into that. And Bridget, you can do that too. We can all do that. Everybody who's watching back, okay? Part of your womb healing for this class is to massage your womb, okay? And you can also massage your breast too. Why? Because your breast and your womb is connected. So if you massage your breast, a lot of the energy and tension that you got stored in this, or a lot of regret. I remember I did a tantra session one time, and part of the tantra work, sometimes they can get into this area, they can like rub the energy on top of your breast or whatever. And man, when I tell you they got into that energy, and I had the biggest cry. just had something because I was storing so much energy. Understand, where you have Cancer in your chart is where you store stuff. Okay. So we store energy in our breast and we store energy in our womb. So from now until the end of Cancer season, I want you to massage your breast and massage your womb. Okay. That's release that energy. That's going to be part of the release as we are implanting the new things that we want to take in for ourselves. Okay. Any questions about that? All right. Now, real quick, go through Capricorn. Okay, Capricorn is the polar opposite. We're going to talk about this again when we have the Capricorn full moon. Capricorn is the sea goat. Ruling planet is Saturn. So the Saturn retrograde energy, even though it's in Pisces, Capricorn is the ruler of that. Okay, so right now, Capricorn and Pisces is having this conversation. Okay, having the conversation about structure, discipline, legacy. Okay, the Cancer dynamic is the 4th house. The polar opposite house to that is the 10th house. Okay. Now, this energy is where the masculine energy sits. So when we start to think about your father programs, and now because we're talking about the womb space, I want to talk about your grandmother that birthed your daddy. Okay. So what do you have in the 10th house? What is your sign of the 10th house? Okay. Let's talk about that really quickly. Look in your 10th house. See what you got there. Can actually wait. Okay, Capricorn, of course, because it's the polar opposite, as you should, right? So you see how that play in the thing. So with yours, Bridget, you should automatically have Aquarius there. Okay. That's what you should have, because the polar opposite energy. Right. Ha. Yes, you do. Okay. For me, I got Scorpio. So what's the polar opposite of Scorpio? Taurus, right? So I got Taurus in the 10th. Okay. So now when we think about, we go from Brandy's first, Capricorn, right? So now we think about the Capricorn dynamic in a 10th house energy. And if we think about the grandmother to her father, right? And we can talk about the father, we're going to talk about father at the Capricorn full moon class. We'll talk about that later. But grandmama to Brandy, right? Her paternal grandmother. Having Capricorn there means that she grew up, or if her grandmother was in her life, right, on the paternal side, then the legacy energy somewhere there was broken. Right. So that means there may or may not have been a strong presence of her dad's mom in her life. Okay. Why? Because there could be a possibility that her dad's mom was maybe not in his life, or there may be some strange energy going on. Why is that? Because anytime we deal with Capricorn, and I always talk about the broken family dynamic somewhere. There is a broken energy there. Why? Because either somebody was either overworking, you know what I'm saying? Not there trying to repair the legacy. Something is always missing when it comes down to the Capricorn dynamic. And usually it's either the father left, you know what I'm saying? Or the mother may have transitioned early. The mother could have left. So it's something going on as it relates to that. So we think about the energy of her dad now, right? Or her grandmother giving birth to her dad. Something about her dad's dad may not have been there. Okay. Or something about the energy of that parental perspective of her father and her grandparents, grandmama, granddaddy. Somebody wasn't there. Somebody was missing. Who was missing, Brandy? Your granddaddy or your grandmama?
I think it. I think it was. Are you talking about from my granddaddy or from my grandma?
So think about your dad, and then think about your grandparents. So did you know your dad's grandmother?
I
I'm
can't hear
sorry. Did
you.
you know your dad's mother?
My dad's mother. So her dad was around and her mom was around, but her dad he worked a whole lot, so he was
Okay.
barely around.
So not necessarily in place, right? So being that is the case,
And then I think on her dad's side, the dad was one.
so with your father, was your father in your life?
Yeah.
Okay. Was he in the household with you being raised, or you just had a chance to spend time with him?
So my dad was the main person. My mom ended up passing away when I was just younger.
Mm-hmm. So if you think about the
So I
perspective,
didn't have my
okay,
mom around.
okay, you breaking up a little bit. I don't know if it's me or you, but so again, so look at what Brandon just said, right? So there is some, when we think about the parental and think about the energy of mother, daddy, somebody was missing. Somebody wasn't there, right? So for her, her dad was the one who primarily raised her, but her mom wasn't in her life, right? But if you go back and even talk to your dad, it's the same thing. He experienced either his mama wasn't there or his daddy wasn't there. Somebody wasn't there. So he's already used to this one parent household perspective or this one parent situation of raising. Okay. So when we think about how that comes in, now it becomes this broken legacy energy of how can I fix the legacy? What can I do? And overworking becomes that problem. Overworking becomes that answer. So even when you don't feel like you want to overwork, you still overworking because that's all you've seen. That's all you've seen because it's all your daddy's seen, right? It's all the energy that has been in the legacy has been overworking and buying children everything. Because I can't be there for the kids. Let me give them what they want. But that's not what the kids want. They want your time and energy. So finding a balance to your self-care is what helps you to give the kids that was missing. Okay. Now, Bridget, when we think about your perspective, right? And we think about this Aquarius dynamic, you already laughing. Now, when we think about this Aquarius dynamic and we think about how this energy then shows up with the father dynamic, right? So the Aquarius energy is two things. It's Saturn and it's also Uranus. So it is discipline and rebellion. So in that part of your bloodline, one side is discipline, one side is rebellion, right? So we think about this coming from the masculine dynamic and we think about your grandparents. Was your grandparents in your life from your daddy's side?
Um, my grand my grandmother, yes. My By the time I think I was born, my grandfather had passed.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what are some of the things that you remember from your grandmother as it relates to like when you thought about her and how she then gave energy to your father?
Um, I know the stories that I've heard are they had a very long marriage, but it was very tumultuous.
Mm-hmm,
Um, he was a doctor, so he worked a lot, but then
mm-hmm.
he was also a little slut, so he had children everywhere.
Yeah,
Um,
that is definitely characteristics of Aquarius energy,
I
baby.
know.
Very slutty. You hear me? Or I like to call the populators of the world. Okay, they like to
The facts.
okay.
The facts.
But as we can still see, though, even though that was the energy, it still didn't prolong his life, right? It still
Yeah.
ended him in a space of not being there because, again, what we have in that 10th house is where the legacy is, right? So we got something broken that we need to fix. So the Aquarius energy then comes in to show that he had a lot of rebellion going on and not enough discipline. So when you think about now, from your perspective, in Brandon's perspective, there was overworking. In your perspective, it was too much rebellion and not enough discipline, right? So now we deal with these programs of what's going on, right? Okay, Brandon's perspective is overworking, lack of nurturing, right? Fourth house, lack of nurturing, 10th house, overworking. Bridget's perspective, child care, dealing with the heart and healing the heart thing, and then the rebellion, not wanting to do it, right? So yeah, I've been very rebellious. I know you have, Bridget, because I've been working with you, baby. You part of the working team. So I know, okay? And even when you come to me swelled up, I want to rebel. I'm like, you gonna do this or not? What are we doing? Okay. So yes, the rebellious energy, we have to recognize that we're still carrying things from our grandparents. Okay. You're not just dealing with your mom and your dad, whether they here or deceased. You are your mom and your daddy, but you are also very much so your paternal grandparents and your maternal grandparents. So part of this program, this reprogramming is recognizing where the bloodline has come from and what you have to do to clear it. This is part of it. It's recognizing that we can't hold on to the rebellion anymore. Rebellious energy is not going to get you what you need. The discipline is going to get you what you need. The taking care of yourself and having fun and healing your heart is going to get you what you need. With Brandon, she can't give her kids everything and be missing, you know what I'm saying, working all day and then coming home with all the goodies and all the snacks and all the toys and all this kind of stuff. That's not going to work if we plan on reprogramming, you know what I'm saying? For me, same thing. The Taurus energy is in the 10th. So when I think about the Taurus perspective, that's the entitled, okay? Now, when I think about one of the stories that my grandmama told me about my daddy, she told me that she used to get up in the morning and she used to dress my daddy and put on all the finest clothes, Taurus, okay? Make him look all good. And then she would let him go out the house. And she said by the time she go outside and look for him, he is outside naked under the tree with a little girl. That's what my daddy was doing. So she said she will whoop him, spank his little tail, bring him back in the house, bathe him again, dress him up again, get him all nice and neat, and tell him like, okay, now keep your clothes on when I send you back out this door. She sent him back out the door. And she looked back out the window, and lo and behold, he back naked again with the little neighbor girl outside up under the tree. So she like, this, I'm just gonna whoop him and keep him in the house. Okay. Now, dressing him in his finest clothes, that's Taurus energy. Okay. But the fact of him being entitled is nothing that has left him yet. He is still entitled to this day. Okay. When I mean entitled, he entitled to all my mama's energy, however, whatever. He felt like she should do all these things, okay? Which is not work for neither one of them. Okay. There's just been a brawl, okay, between this Pisces and this Capricorn. Okay. So when I think about that energy and I think about growing up sometimes and some of the energy of that, and how I have been entitled, right? For the longest part, I felt entitled. A whole lot of different ways I felt entitled to same things. I felt entitled that my mama should do these things. And if she want her legacy to be great, she do blah, 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 blah. That's not helping anything. So now I recognize the opposite part of the entitlement that comes along with Taurus is knowing that the work has already been done in a lot of ways. It's my job to make sure that I am upholding that work. And what I mean upholding that work is there are certain things that have already been put in place as it relates to working these dynamics out. Now I have to not get so tired and exhausted with things and feel so entitled to things and really put myself into those perspectives. So 10th house Taurus means some people are gonna assume that I already got it, but I don't. I have to work on it. I have to put myself into those perspectives. Am I royalty? Yes, I am. Okay, I am the ancestor that I'm waiting on. Okay, yes, I am. But it does not mean that I'm entitled to already have it already there. I have to show that it is something that I am going to handle with authority and handle with the energy that I'm supposed to uphold it. Okay. And with that comes all the gifts and all the money and all the blessings and all the travel and all the things that y'all see me do. It comes with that when I do my job. Okay. Yes, I'm going to be the CEO. Yes, I'm going to be the head of all these things, but I still have to do the work. There's no entitlement here. Entitlement is only going to breed spoiled energy. And I gave birth to a Mars and Taurus. So when I tell you, I watch this Mars and Taurus and my child show up all the time. And I know that that comes from my also entitled paternal side of my family. We're not doing that. So I have to check her all the time. I know you want to do these things, but you're going to have to grow up. Same for me. So I had to grow up and I'm still growing up. We're going to be growing up until you die, until you transition. So don't think that you made it. No, you're going to be making it. You're going to be doing these things, okay? So in going to be doing these things, you have to develop a good practice because if you don't develop a good practice, then entitlement for me and whoever got Taurus in the 10th, you're going to develop entitlement and entitlement is going to break you because the universe don't care about your entitlement. The universe care about the fact that you own the energy that you came here to do and uphold those boundaries, uphold those values, uphold those foundations, okay? Y'all got me any questions about the 10th? None. Great. All right. Yeah, girl, it get deep when you start to get into it. Okay. When you really know what you're really looking at. Yes. Now with this chart, let me pull up this new moon chart really quick. Okay. Now, Chiron at 4 degrees. Okay. And Venus and the moon both were in a square with Chiron. Now, we know Chiron is the wounded healer, okay? And look at what Chiron is, y'all, okay? Chiron in the 4th house. Y'all know what the 4th house is, right? 4th house is Cancer, okay? So if Chiron is in Aries in the 4th house, that means it's a squabble going on in there, okay? Because that baby, y'all know what happened when a baby hungry, when a baby needs diaper change and a baby need to be fed. It is a yelling going on. It is an internal discontentment, okay? So think about the energy. Chiron in the 4th house, the unhealable injury of these people in their family. They believe that their parents did not give them the proper care, the love, and the sense of security. Even in adulthood, unhappy childhood can still be their opened, unhealed injury. They compensate for this, for example, by creating their own big family, by constantly dealing with the past, or by deciding to never become parents in order to never cause a pain in their children. Do y'all see that? Did that hit home anywhere? Okay, hallelujah, holla back. This is where you are today in this energy, okay? Don't matter whether you created a big family, small family, or no family, okay? Understand that there is some overcompensation for what you did not have, okay? So whether that be you being bad with money, splurging on things that you know you shouldn't splurge on, not developing great habits, you know what I'm saying? All of this is because of your unhappy childhood, and your wounds from this is still open, okay? So what we're getting ready to do, I'm getting ready to, after we through talking about this, I'm getting ready to close this part of the class down, which means I'm going to stop the recording. And what we're going to do is we're going to get into some sharing of your childhood wounds, okay? If you care to share, all right? So that means opening up the energy and allow yourself to share what it is that you know you need to share when it comes down to your childhood perspectives, okay? And with that share, we're going to then take the end after that, and we're going to implant, like I told y'all at the beginning of class, we're going to put in some incantations. We're going to put in some words to make sure that you are saying every time you get triggered, every time you think about your mama and some stuff going on, I need you to say these words, okay? Every time you think about your daddy and think about what he did and did not do, okay? I need you to say these words. Why? Because the programming is real. The same way they programmed you from the womb space, you have a womb, okay? Again, regardless of whether or not you are a man or a woman, you have a womb. And having a womb means that you can change it. You can put some new things in place. And this is what we're going to do today. But understand that when this Chiron is in the 4th house, you are living in the things that you feel like your parents did not do, especially when it comes down to the proper care. But as we just got through going through and see, how they gonna give you something they don't have? How? How they gonna give you something they don't even give themselves? They don't even have the capacity to give it to themselves, but they supposed to give it to you? No, what they did give you was the fact that you survived. I know a lot of y'all gonna come after you watch this class and be like, is that enough? It may not be enough. But what I want you to understand is that if it ain't enough, you can stop looking for them to give it to you. Because that's gonna be the issue. The issue is that you're looking, that's like you going over there and to an empty water source and keep trying to twist that pipe on. If ain't no water, now I don't care how thirsty you are, it ain't no water coming from that. You have to produce that water. You have to create that water. Okay, so understand that you have the ability to create that water too. How do I know it? Because if you did not have the ability to create it, you wouldn't be here dealing with it. So you can create it. So that wound, that wounded healer, Chiron means the wounded. Healer is the word that I want you to pay attention to. The wounded part means that it's going to trigger your wounds so that you can heal, okay? It's going to do that. Chiron is in Aries. These people may be traumatized by the fact that despite all their efforts, they are not successful because they are not very proactive and assertive. They lack the appropriate dose of healthy aggression that is needed in a competitive society in order to survive competition with those who are too harsh and ruthless. They usually compensate for this with exaggerated activity, but with the results never correspond with the efforts they put in. In other words, Aries is the leadership. So if you have energy in dealing with Chiron and Aries, and right now we're all dealing with Chiron and Aries, it's because of your lack of leadership. Leadership of what? Yourself. If you got childhood wounds that you are not willing to allow yourself to heal, you're going to have a problem leading yourself. You're going to keep saying, well, I don't have this because my mama didn't give it to me. I don't have this because my dad didn't give it to me. I don't have this because I didn't have my parents, or my mama wasn't in my life, or my dad wasn't in my. You're going to find a reason. But the actual thing that's happening is you're in a cycle of birthing and leading yourself. The reason why you didn't have it was because you didn't need it from that perspective. They were never supposed to be the people giving you that. It was never supposed to come from them. It was supposed to be a wound. It was supposed to be a childhood wound so you could give it to yourself. That's why it exists. But we get so caught into these expectations of people in life. Okay, they were supposed. No, ain't no supposed to nothing. Whatever was supposed to be is. Whatever ain't supposed to be ain't. That's just the reality. I'm so sorry to break that to you. Okay. But if we stop looking to try to receive something from a space and a person that does not have the capacity, guess what's going to happen? The space and the capacity of where you're supposed to get it from is going to open up. And when we talk about Aries, we talk about initiation and leadership. What I mean is, wherever you have Aries in your chart, is where this Chiron and Aries energy is hitting, right? Aries is where you have to do it first. You have to be wherever you got Aries, you're supposed to do it first. You are the leader to that energy. And when you lead into it, then all the support shows up. The issue is you are so community where you have Aries in your chart that you want to take people along with you. And everybody can't go for that ride. Everybody's not supposed to be for that ride. So then you get the wounds that's triggering you from the same triggers of your childhood. And now you keep saying that I'm constantly dealing with this in my life. But you're the common denominator to all those experiences. Them people didn't grow up with you. So how are you going from relationship to relationship experiencing the same thing over and over again when these people they don't know each other? You're the magnet. You're the draw to that. And it's happening so that you can break it. It's not happening so that you can keep complaining that every time you get into a certain relationship with a person, this happens to you over and over again. It's happening because you are not doing your job. When you do your job, it'll stop. What's your job? To lead yourself, to go along, to do it by yourself, to figure it out by yourself. So when you figure it out by yourself, then you see that there are other people in that room that's also figuring it out by themselves too. They're also leading in that. So now you can start to attract the healed perspective or the healing perspectives of yourself, and you'll start to attract the healing perspectives of other people too. But if you're willing to just sit with the wound and keep blaming, then guess what you're going to draw? Other people who are sitting with their wounds and blaming too. That's going to be your life. Every time you turn around, you're going to constantly be dealing with the same situations in different people. And you're drawing in this situation expecting a different result, but you're not willing to do anything different. So if you're not wanting to do anything different, then you're going to be constantly dealing with this. And this is what Chiron comes to teach us. So today, dealing with this moon squaring Chiron, your emotions is showing you where you are not leading yourself, where you are not healing of yourself. Because Aries does not need other people to do it. You're going to have to go again by yourself. Even babies, twins in the mama's stomach, don't come out together. Even though they sit in that womb for 9.5, 10 months, they still have to come out one at a time. So what does that mean? If Aries is the beginning, that means it doesn't matter whether or not you want a community or not, you're going to have, at some point, you're going to have to go alone. And when you go alone, everything is going to be there when you get there. Everything you need is going to be there. Okay, so this wounded heal energy in your emotions is showing you where you're still emoting the same things. You're still doing the same things, expecting a different result. You have to change your emotions. Changing your emotions looks like reprogramming yourself, doing something different. Okay, not only is the moon squaring Chiron, Venus is also squaring Chiron too, okay? And because Venus is squaring Chiron, Venus is our foundations, it is our value system, it is our money and our relationship dynamics, okay? So what is that conversation of the square? That means some of these issues that you're having with relationships, and relationship don't mean just romantic ones. It means all of them. friendships, partnerships, co-workerships, okay? All the ships, okay? All the ships that you're having. The issues that you're experiencing are childhood. They come from program. You watched your mom and daddy have these issues in relationships and you're still repeating them, okay? When it comes down to your values, these value system issues that you're having is also childhood. The same values that you struggle with are the same values that you struggle with in your childhood because your family struggled with these values. It ain't just you, it's the bloodline that's having these value issues. So now your job as dealing with the square of this Chiron energy is to go back into your childhood and see what these value broken systems are and say, I need to reprogram that. How do you reprogram? Giving yourself what is missing. So if the lack of value is, I don't feel like I'm being honored for my time, then go back in the childhood and look if time issues or time management was an issue in the bloodline. If it was, get on your time management. Start being more accountable to your time. To treat your time as being valuable. If you treat your time as being valuable, then guess what? You'll start to draw a different perspective of energy of people who see your time as being valuable. You see what I'm saying? Whatever the value system is. When you think about the finances, because finance is also in the perspective of Venus. So if finances is an issue, right? Go back to look at in your childhood, how was finances treated in your family? Did your mama have good basis of finances? Did your daddy have good basis of finances? Did your family have good basis of finances? Were y'all moving all the time because y'all couldn't keep money? Okay. Did y'all didn't eat sometimes because there was no groceries? Okay. What was it when it come down to finances in the family? Because whatever it is, some of that issues that you're dealing with right now, your lack of finances is the childhood perspective saying we need to heal this. How do you heal it? Taking a doggone financial class, sitting with somebody, and not, if I know I can hear y'all now say, well, Gigi, if I don't have the money, how am I going to afford a financial class? YouTube is free. Okay, there's a whole lot of tools and resources of finances on YouTube and TikTok. Y'all love TikTok, and TikTok is a university. Okay, now I'm not saying everything on there is real. I'm just saying it's a university for you to go on there and learn. I'm not saying everything on YouTube is real either, but I guarantee you're going to find more tools and resources on it that can help you than none. So, but if you're not willing to go and find the truth or find the ways in which you can heal these things, then you're going to forever keep drawing these cycles. Forever keep drawing these same situations, same programs, same things over and over again, expecting different results, and you are not going to do it because the wounded healer is trying to trigger you on purpose. So understand during this cycle that we're dealing with, the Saturn retrograde and this Neptune retrograde, especially Saturn retrograde, we'll just stay there. The Saturn retrograde is going to trigger every problem that you have surrounded lack of discipline, lack of structure, and your inability to grow up. So meaning that if you've been able to draw money fluidly for the last 4 years, all of a sudden now money is a problem. You're like, wait a minute, what have I done? Now you're crying. Now you're panicking. Now you're stressed. Now you're like, what's going on? Am I going to be able to do da? Not realizing that this is how you're going to make sure that you not only are going to be successful, but everything that comes after you is going to be successful because this is a childhood wound that needs to be healed. So whatever the pressures are with money is because you need to do something different. You need to change. You're stuck. You're stuck in the same rut. And some of that rut is the mental blocks that you feel as it relates to money and finances. That is what a Venus square Chiron does, okay? It's working all those dynamics. Values of relationships, foundations, and money. Okay, all of that square is going on, and it's going on with Chiron in Aries. Okay, meaning that stop looking for somebody else to do it for you. Nobody's gonna do it. I'm telling you right now, if you're looking for somebody to come and save you, you are going to be ass out. Nobody's coming. Okay, nobody, and nobody's helping you. It's gonna be you. Okay, and everybody you try to go to get help, they're gonna talk about you. Okay, they're gonna talk about you to your face and behind your back. They're going to say whatever they're going to say to you. Oh, no, I don't have it. Or, oh, girl, I'm so sorry you're dealing with that. And the moment you turn your back, they got some shit to say. Why? Because that's part of the trigger. That's part of the wound. That's part of Chiron trying to heal you, to get you to see that you can do it. And sometimes you got to be triggered so that that Aries fire can raise up out of you so that you can do something. Okay. Now, do you have to go through that rage of fire to do it? No, you don't. But sometimes that baby need to cry. Okay. Are y'all talking to me on this chat? What y'all saying? Read a book, not cool. Ooh, wow. Yes, yes. Read exactly. You can read a book. You can go to the library. I think the library is. We still got libraries, right? Has the internet killed libraries yet? Okay, I think they're still in existence. Okay, so you can go and check a book out. You can do whatever is necessary that you need to do to make sure that you are getting the wounded healer the energy that it needs. Okay, that's the pressure that you're feeling today with this Chiron pressure in dealing with this conjunction of the sun and the moon together. Anytime we got a sun and moon conjunction, it literally just means a new moon. Okay, so sun and moon are coming together to help you to implant. So that's what we're going to do now. Now I'm going to cut the live because this part we're going to go into is private, just for us. Okay. Now what I will do before I end it. So those of you that are not going to be on this part with us, what you have to do for your homework or for you after you watch this class, you have to spend some time calling out. So I want you to take some paper, get a pen and paper. Pen and paper is important. I don't need you to use no devices for this. Pen and paper. I need you to write out all the energy that's coming up in you as it relates to the lack of energy that you feel surrounding maternal energy, okay? Nurturing, okay? What is it that you need to activate when it comes down to your nurturing dynamic, okay? Let me stop this share real quick. I want you to pull right down the lack of nurturing energy that you feel, okay? Surrounding your mama, surrounding your daddy, surrounding your family dynamics, okay? When you write those things out, right? Because that's going to be part of your clearing. Write it all out. And even if hopefully it makes you cry. I'm hoping that you get in there deep enough that it makes you cry, okay? Once you get through writing all the things that are coming up in your triggers, okay, your childhood wounds that are coming up, the emotions that's coming up and pouring out of you, then I want you to take that paper, pull it to the side. Then I want you to take another paper, right? And I want you to then write all the things that you are going to give yourself in order to reprogram yourself, okay? So if lack of nurturing is what's coming up, I feel like my mama wasn't there enough. She didn't listen, or I feel like she didn't do A, B, C, and D. Then your thing is, I am giving myself all the things that was missing in my childhood. I am the listener. I'm the biggest listener for myself. I'm the biggest nurturer to myself. I'm always there to give myself the time and attention and the energy that I need. I'm working diligently on my healing every day. I am my number one priority. I am immaculate on my self-care. I'm immaculate with my time when it comes down to myself. All the issues, child issues, you need to write them into the present of they're no longer an issue. Okay? That's all you gotta do. Get into the thing and I need you to write until you clear. Okay, this is part of what you're going to implant. And again, we cannot plant things you can't eat off a dirty plate. Okay, so if you're not clearing the plate, the first paper is for you to clear it all out, cry it out, write it out, rip the page out. Okay, when you rip the page out, now you can implant. What do you need? What type of nurturing energy do you need to give yourself? What is the spaces of energy as it relates to the nurturing and the healing that you need to re-put into your foundations, because that's what you're doing. What you're doing is putting in new foundations, but you can't put in new foundations without clearing first. And clearing looks like the first page. Get it all out, okay? Second page is putting in the healing work of your foundations, okay? Now, I'm going to stop the recording